everybody. Welcome to, we've got some guests tonight. We've got, sorry, was it Cow Story from Fire Branch? And Fiona, who's a member of the Chorley branch, but she lives in Gloucestershire, rather nice place to live. Got Colin, who's from other side of the Pennines, who's actually a member of the society. Denise, who's a member of ours, and Lancashire Clogs is John, who appears to have disappeared at the moment. But welcome to you all. No real, I'm going to take these off. No real parish notes as such. Obviously, the research centre is not open at the moment. We will let you know when it is. There are a couple of things. If you would like us to do a quiz between the two meetings, 2 weeks after this meeting, 2 weeks before the next meeting on a Thursday night, just email through to let us know. We'll have a quiz going, make it a more social evening. And what was the other thing? I can't remember. Can you remember, Steve? No. Sorry about that. There is another thing. If I remember it before the end of the talk, I'll let you know. Okay.
Just to remind people of the website, maybe.
Oh yeah, don't forget the website that is set up for you all. It is there on the emails, etc. And Steve does regularly send emails out with, have you seen this on the website and all that sort of thing. So please, please, please do join in. Do ask questions if you're interested in what Ron has to say or query what he has to say. And I'm going to hand you over to the fella here on my side, Ron, and he's going to talk about his search for Grandad and his parents, and it's called, Ooh, You Big Fibbers. We know what it's all about, don't we?
Hello, I'm just about to start up. Now, just 2 ticks, I'm still setting up. Just wait, give me a sec while I just get this set. Oh, no. Who's just turned up?
I think it was Susan.
No.
No?
I've had great problems.
Susan.
Yeah, it kept saying it's not responding, not responding. I've had to switch it off twice and start again.
Oh dear.
Right, I'm about to start, Susan.
Is that strange sound? Can everybody hear that strange sound, or is it my computer?
No, I think it. Can you turn your mic down a bit, Ron? We're getting a bit of feedback.
All right. Right now, right. I'll learn how to do that.
That is better.
Okay. All right. I shall speak a little bit quieter. That's the way to go. Everybody got me now?
We can't hear, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a high pitch.
Right. Okay, here goes. Oh, many people and families tell fibs. I tell the old ones as well.
We all do.
Mine did, and my family did anyway. That's my granddad in the picture. Can you all see the picture? Well, that's my granddad. Charles Thornton, it was called. Let me say right from the start, I do not know who was telling the fibs. But I'm almost certain Granddad told the odd ones. Some of these fibs have been passed down from generation to generations, and some fibs were told to hide reality, and some told for what at the time was thought good reasons. However, the main thing, as far as I'm concerned, they held my research up for absolutely ages. In the beginning, the story starts in 1977, when Pauline and I first took family history up. We started with an interview with my mum, and this is a transcript of it. You can see the various details here. I'm going to start effectively at the bottom. It says one son, Charles, born 17th of November 1893 in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and was sent back to live in Liverpool by himself at the age of 18 months. Brought up by grandmother and spinster aunts, and the rest of it doesn't matter. His father was another Charles, right? He was in the army. He married Elizabeth Beattie of Dublin, possibly in Dublin. He was a sergeant in the army and he was killed fighting a forest fire in Saskatoon. His wife, Elizabeth, not from the forest fire, but for whatever reason, died a year or two later. And then Grandad was sent over. I mentioned about Elizabeth Beattie having some late link to the Lord Mayor of London. I have looked in Dublin. I have looked at it, and lo and behold, I haven't found any link there. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight, so I'll pass that over. His father was another Charles Thornton in the army. He was in charge of the Heavy Brigade at Balaclava in the Crimea. His widow lived in Mossley Hill, Liverpool, and she died about 1920. Now, my mum was born in 1922, so she never met or Charles Thornton, who died in 1905, so she never met him either. But she did meet the brothers and sisters. But I'm going to come back to that later. Grandad married my grandma in Scotland, so it's a Scottish certificate, so it's got a little bit more detail. But it confirms a bit of what my mum told me, that Charles Thornton was a sergeant in the army and was deceased. And Elizabeth Thornton, maiden surname Beattie, was also deceased. That matched what my mother told. Sorry. Right, I also got my granddad's naval record. It's only Grandad, that picture there. He's in the Royal Navy, but he was born on the 17th of November, 1893. And he was born in Saskatchewan, Canada. It all fits. He's an errand boy as well. Now, another piece I'd inherited from my mum were 3 photographs. The first one there was this one. So this is my granddad's. And by the way, I'm going to say Grandad all the way through because all these Charleses make it very, very confusing. So there's my granddad's grandmother and their daughters. They had sons as well, but daughters. Fair enough. It was these daughters that my mother met, but she didn't meet them a lot, and they weren't, you know, she couldn't remember the names properly. So they're a bit of a blank. We had some ideas of name. One of them was an Elizabeth. Other than that, really, we didn't know. There was a Grace, which we'll come to. Excuse me, a bit of a cough, and I forgot to bring a hanky with it. But anyway, my granddad, there we are, Now, there was a bit of family history associated with him, if you remember. He was in the Crimea. And we went to a family history fair, and there was a military expert there who was an expert in the Crimea. So I asked him to try and identify the photograph. Indeed, it is the uniform of a heavy dragoon in the Crimea War. Yeah, that's no story. This is a story. The third photograph I've got is of Grandad with his cousin Grace. Grace is a little bit younger than Grandad, and I've been told that there was, and probably mentioned it earlier, there was a Grace amongst the brothers and sisters of my great granddad, who was a camp follower. Well, this is not a camp follower. She's the wrong generation. But
Your mother's description.
yes. So, here we are, a family tree. I always like family trees. Siblings of the middle Charles, right, are not shown on the diagram because at that stage I didn't really know the names. So I left them out. But everything seems to fit together. So the first place to start looking is in Canada for the birth of my granddad. And I searched between 1892 and 1897 with no luck. I contacted several societies in Canada and asked for their assistance without any luck. I looked at the British Armed Forces overseas, births, baptisms, India Office births, baptisms, Irish births, nothing. No luck at all. I searched repeatedly, year after year, and found nothing. I also searched for the marriage of Charles Thornton Sr., the Crimea chappie, and his wife. And I couldn't find them. I looked in, I didn't have much to go on, but I couldn't find them. I looked for Charles Thornton and Elizabeth Beattie. I looked in the records for Ireland, Canada, and the UK, and found no such marriage. I've been looking since 1977. Nothing. I'm not telling you the many blind alleys, but I have brought a couple of examples up. This is a Charles Thornton, Mary Ann and Elizabeth, and a Charles E. as a son. He's the right age to be my great granddad, not my granddad, my great granddad. So that fits. If you have a look, the wife, Mary Ann, is born in Canada. The first child is born in Quebec. Charles E. is born in Malta. Oh, it sounds good, but it wasn't. I was quite able to prove that that wasn't the right family. So, move on to another one. This one initially looked a bit good. Here we have a Charles Thornton. It's down, I don't know if you can see my mouse on your screens, but it's down towards the bottom. Charles Thornton with Lydia, his wife, and Charles' son. That Charles is about the right age for my granddad. Great. But his dad's still alive, not burnt in a forest fire. I really got onto this painter, but he painted houses, so it wasn't as you might think. So it's the wrong one, definitely the wrong one. What happened next was another visit to a family history fair. I thought I'd have a look at Charles from Crimea. And I had a word with an expert on the Crimean Wars. And he said he would write back to me, and he wrote back to me a few days later, and he couldn't find any Charles Thornton in any at all in Crimea, no matter what forces they were in, none at all. But he had found a John, and John was in the charge of the Heavy Brigade. That fits. Should I have been looking for John all the way along? Well, and now had a lead to start looking in Liverpool. So I went to the 1891 census. Now this is before my granddad was born, so I wouldn't find him. And then, by the way, this was the only census at the time that was available to me. And lo and behold, we have a family, and it seems to fit. John is about 12 years older than his wife, and he's a pensioner, which is usually a good indication that he was in the army. One of the children was a Mary who was training to be a teacher. It's with the mother story. And all of the children, except the youngest, were born in Ireland. Interestingly, Elizabeth, his wife, was born in Bermuda, in the West Indies. I also show at the bottom the second family that was living in the same house, as a different household though. And the wife of James McClellan was an Ada E, and subsequent research shows that was her daughter. So this is where they lived. And this house here, and you can see it's quite a nice house, and it's got a cellar. That's where James McClellan and his wife Ada will have lived almost certainly. And the rest of the household lived up here. Right. It's a long way from proving any connection, but it's worth waiting to the 1901 census. Here we are. John is living on his own means this time. Two of the daughters are now teachers, which fits and matches with what I was told, but no sign of Grandad. But as I've mentioned to people many times, when your family's at the bottom of a sheet, always check the next sheet. There's a blank line there, but check the next sheet. And lo and behold, there is Charles Thornton, grandson, 5 years old. That's a bit awry. If he was, that would take him to 1896, and I was told 1893. Well, we'll see. But the biggest difference, he was born in Birmingham. Not the right place at all. So, where do we go from here? Well, sorry, it didn't work. That is where, I don't know what's happened there, just excuse me, let me go back. Right. I thought it looked wrong. It's worth further research. It'd be another 10 years before I could look at 1911. This is stretching the job out a long way, but I've got plenty of other lines to look at. But I could look in Birmingham, so I did. And since the date of birth was in doubt, I've looked for a range of years, 1891 to 1898 I looked. It was also worth looking for a bit wider than Birmingham, so I looked at Warwickshire and adjacent counties, and I turned up 9 plain Charles Thorntons and 17 Charles Thorntons with a middle name in there as well. Some of the duplicates, I worked through these and eliminated most of them. All I needed to do was find the family in the census in the 1901, and if they weren't in Liverpool, it's not proof that, but it's likely they weren't the right family. And various other checks I was able to do, and I was able to knock the vast majority of those out. Another line to follow was John Thornton, wife and children. I found him in 1881, 1891, and 1901 census. And he had 7 children, and all but the one were born, and all but the last one were born in Dublin. But there's no Charles. There was an Emily, by the way, was missing, but that was calculated from census data. I found that Vital Records was a brilliant source. You know, it was an LDS one, on CD, very, very good source. But Family Search helped as well. And again, we're talking a few years back now. Next thing to try, just look for John Thornton and Elizabeth's marriage. It was a shock. It was a Vital Record index, as I mentioned, for, on CD by the LDS, which broke it. And there we are. John Thornton was married to an Elizabeth Beattie in Dublin on the in 1860. Elizabeth Beattie. Now this is not her granddad's parents' marriage, but his grandparents' marriage. Well, that's an odd, isn't it? His grandparents and his grandmother's name and his mother's name being the same. It's unlikely that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's unlikely. Subsequently, I found an Irish genealogy, this certificate, and lo and behold, he's a corporal in the Royal Engineers. He's at the church is St. Bridget's, and he's at Bridge Street Barracks. Yeah. So that's the church, and that's the barracks, still there. Could this be a first fib I've exposed, or is it an error? Or perhaps a coincidence that there were 2 Elizabeth Beatties? We'll try and find out here. The next one I came across was very, very helpful as well. By now, the actual odds of being the right family are looking a lot better. But I need more proof. I like lots of proof to say something is right. So it's worth looking at the family in greater detail. That'd be one of John Thornton and Elizabeth Beattie's children. Could they be the parents of Grandad? I looked at that. I'll come back to that actually. I looked at that though. It was the research into Richard Thornton which gave me the next big clue. Richard Thornton had married Hannah Grace Waters in 1899 in Southport. Their first born was Marjorie in 1900, but the second one, and I got the image too early, but the second one was Grace. Grace was this child. So that is now looking good as far as I'm concerned. According to the naval record, Granddad was born in the 17th of November 1893, and Grace was born the 10th of November 1902, a difference in age of 9 years, a few days. I don't see there's 9 years difference in age of those. perhaps the 1901 census was more correct. That would make 6 years difference. It's still a tall order, but it's a lot better than the first one. So that early birth, 1893, is almost certainly a fib. Moving on. Where are we up to? Date of birth, unknown. Place of birth, unknown. Name of mother, unknown. Name of father, unknown. 1977 to 2001, it was still all unknown. So what do? We carry on searching. The next breakthrough came at looking at another of John and Elizabeth's children. Ada Elizabeth Thornton married James McClelland in 1886. In 1901, the household was as follows. So we have James McClelland, Ada, and by the way, it's Ada Elizabeth, and I mentioned my mother mentioned that one of the ladies was an Elizabeth, and 2 children. Again, it's at the bottom of the sheet, always turn over. And there we have the final clincher. Charles Thornton, brother-in-law. Wow, age 40, pensioner, been in the army, right? And he's born in Ireland. Why was he not with his son? He was supposed to be in Canada, dead. The obvious question arises was where Charles William, as it turns out, Thornton was in 1911. It'd be another 10 years before I could see that. But first, where was Grandad in 1911? Well, Grandad was in the Royal Navy, and this confirms what was written on the service sheet. His age is given at 17, which should suggest the year of 1894, and a place of birth in Canada. Big questions marks about both of those now. No wonder I did all that searching in Canada and didn't find out. Is it 1893 or 1894 or 1896? Is it Saskatoon or Birmingham? Granddad joined the Navy in 1909. That means he was in 1896, using the 1896 date, he was 13 years old when he joined the Navy. He's running away, isn't he? Run away to join the Navy. Didn't join the Army, he joins the Navy. So I think we've exposed a great fib there, which was probably Granddad's fib. Where was Charles Thornton in 1911? His father. Well, he was here. This is the workhouse at West Union Road, Rice Lane, Morton Hill. It consists of all you can see on that photograph and much more. It goes off to the right and way back. It covered 37 acres. Massive place. One of many workhouses in Liverpool. In the 1901 census, we find him there. 1911 census, we find him there. Right. It's not known what part he was in or why he was there, but he was there. He was, you can see it, Charles Thornton, age 50, widower. Ah, he has been married. He's a van driver for a delivery company, and he's an army pensioner. He's in Dublin. It fits, it fits. So where do we go from here? Two routes. His army record will be a good place to start. And then other workhouse records. Now, I've found other members of the family in the early Victorian and Georgian military records, but not Charles William Thornton. I found plenty of plain Charles Thorntons, but none of them fitted. The only one that came close to fitting was in the Royal Navy. I searched and searched for 18 years and discovered nought. Was he in the army? He must have been, because when you went into the workhouse and you had a pension, they took the pension off you. So he must have been in the army. Why can't I find him? About 5 years ago, by my past, put the Liverpool Workhouse Records online, and Manchester and other places as well. William Charles Thornton appears in these records many, many times. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a year, from 1898 to 1920. The records stop in 1920, not because he wasn't there, but because of the 100-year closure rule. Here is a carter. Well, that fits in a way. He's got epilepsy there. So he's not there as a pauper, he's there because he's ill. Right, but they got the dates he was admitted and where he was living before he goes in. But the main clue that this is the right man is that the next of kin is said to be Mrs. McClelland, his sister. That fits. Remember McClelland, the other family in that household that was next door to his grandparents. So his home for many years looked like this. For example, in 1898, he's in the medical ward of Mill Road Hospital. That's what this place is in Derby, West Derby. His first time that he appears in the records is omitted with something, unfortunately, it's difficult to read. Looks like RHEUM, but it's right on the curve of the book, and the image is unreadable for the rest of it. He's in for 6 weeks and discharged to Bolton Convalescent Home. This suggests it's not for something trivial. Again, his occupation is van driver, formerly in the army. His next of kin is his sister, Ada McClelland. And this is Bolton Convalescent Home. It still exists. He's discharged there back to Mill Road Hospital, where he stays for a further 6 days. On his discharge, it's described as improved. Most visits appear to be for medical reasons, but occasionally visits were questionable. Once he was brought in by a policeman, and a note appended that the police station had to be notified when he was discharged. But on the whole, I felt sorry for him. So why was there no contact with his son? Oh, excuse me, I've done something wrong at my end. Why the lie about Canada? with forest fires and deaths, etc. Who started that lie? Was it Grandad or was it his great-granddad? Sorry, his granddad's granddad. In these records is sometimes a widower and sometimes single, not signal. Which was it? Was he ever married? An army record really helped to find things out, and especially where he was in Canada. Yippee! I found an army record! 5 weeks ago, and literally 5 weeks ago, I found it. It'd been there all the time, but incorrectly indexed by National Archives, Ancestry, Fold 3 and Find My Past. But it'd been there all the time. How do I know it's the correct man? Well, the age is about correct. The name is correct. The place of birth is correct. St. Bridget's, they're mentioned there. The next of kin is mentioned, his father in the Coast Brigade Royal Auxiliary. That is correct, exactly correct. His brother is mentioned as John, which is correct. Another brother is mentioned as Richard. That is correct. It all fits. This is the same man. He says, not seeing the text. Right. So where was he in Canada when he was posted? Let's have a look. Well, since when has India been part of the provinces of Canada? The first few years he was at home, and he was not 18 until 1878. Then 8 years in India. In 1898 he's out of the army.
1889.
Sorry, 1889. It's just people that know me know I get things wrong all the time. Right, so Canada, no. Here we are. What did he do? Well, he had somewhat of an up and down career. He was a boy soldier and a boy shot. Then he was mustered. I presume that means appointed as driver. Oh no, look at that. He's awaiting trial. Tried and dealt with by the civil powers and imprisoned for 2 months. No idea what for. But he'd been a naughty lad. But then he's still a driver. They haven't demoted him. So then he's promoted to acting bombardier. And then he's acting bombardier again. They've been promoted to bombardier. Bombardier, I think, is like corporal, isn't it? Something like that. So, oh no, he's awaiting trial again. Tried and reduced. Naughty lad, this one. And again, this time he's in prison for 13 days. And then he's discharged at Woolwich. But if you have a look at that bottom entry, there's something written in red. Let's have a look at that one. Now this is difficult to read, but it's another uh-oh. Improperly listed into the Royal Navy as second-class stoker. And there's something I can't quite make out. HMS Valage, Portsmouth. So, right, let's go on. Was he ill in India? Well, yes, he was.
Oh dear.
His first one, before he got to India, uh-oh,
Naughty boy.
right? The first entry is before he went to India, as I say, and 3 months later, he was on trial. Was that related, do you think, somehow? After he got out, he went and bashed somebody. I wonder. Then a proper medical one. Palpitations. 19 days in hospital. He got heart tonic. Climate, it says. And then 50 days dysentery. Ooh. Makes you shudder, that, doesn't it? So, and then,
Naughty boy again.
yeah, he got infected again. And then, the vast majority of his time, and this happened time and time and time again, he's listed down as with ague. Now, ague was basically a fever with hot and cold sweats and shivering. But the treatment gives you a clue of what it might be, quinine. And so I read that as malaria. And he's down with it time and time and time again. 10% of his time in the army, he's in hospital, which is a good chunk of time. But what about the Navy? Remember, I mentioned there was one person who nearly fitted. Let's have a look at that properly. So we're back and have a look at that properly. Charles Thornton, 1865, fits, nearly fits anyway. Right, Dublin, Ireland, correct. Place of, the colour of hair and etc. That's pretty well correct. He joined the Navy 9 months after leaving the army. He was a stoker, that fits. And the reason he gets chucked out of the Navy is that he joined the I'm just going to change something. He was serving. They discovered he was in the army, so they clicked and got rid of him. It's the same man as that. So I've got his army record and naval record. Moving on. Right. Did Charles William live to 1939 for the registration? Well, he did. He was here. This is Kirkdale Homes for the elderly and infirm. Here he is. Could this be the start of lying problems that I see? I look closely and I look at his date of birth, and that is 4 months and 26 days before his parents were married. These are my thoughts to present. They're only guesses, these. They're not supported by evidence at the moment, but Victorian morals as they are, I think Charles William, the Army Navy man, his parents took him in, but I think there was something about it which held him back in some way, and the life didn't work out well for him. His parents, I can't find his christening, his baptism or his birth. It's still a mystery as truly who his parents are. He left home early to join the army and possibly brought a bad army career, and probably upset his father and made things worse. He tries to get away from things by telling lies to join the Royal Navy. His ill health compounds things, and soon he is institutionalized. At some stage, he gains a son, but I don't think he was capable of being a single parent. So Grandad was dumped onto John and Elizabeth. The grandfather, this is my grandfather's grandfather, dies in 1905, and my grandfather and probably Grace have an unhappy life, and both try to get away from home as soon as possible. My granddad joins the Navy, saying he's 60 years while he's only 13. He does that to get away from home. Who started the story about his parents is unknown. And the link to Canada is unknown. In 1939, Charles William is 81 years old. My granddad's father, as far as I know, knew none of his grandchildren. They didn't know of his existence. They probably never met him, but they lived in the same area. That is sad. The repercussions of that initial lie are still being felt today. Well, it won't change. The section of Kirkland Homes where he was living, as far as I can discover, dealt with senile patients. What a rotten life he had. Some of which was self-inflicted, admittedly. You might think he ended up in poverty, but not so. He did not write a will, but the probate says the value of his estate was £533, 2 shillings and 10 pence. In 1941, when he died, you could nearly buy a house for that. Who got that money? I don't know. John, his brother, was executor. Did Grandad get any of it? We don't know. So where are we up to? Date of birth, unknown. Place of birth, unknown. Name of mother. No, this is my granddad.
This is Granddad, sorry.
Yeah. Name of mother, unknown. Name of father, unknown. Between 1977 and 2020, all are still unknown. So what do? We carry on searching. Grandad got married and had a good, happy life with 7 children, and they adopted a further 2. I'll eventually solve the problems with Grandad, but in the meantime, that is not Grandma's name. And those are not her parents. But that's another story. Right. That's me done.
Thank you, Ron.
Back on.
Now we've got a question from Megan. Megan, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Megan, you're here.
Yeah. Ron, do you think Charles Williams' birth might have been, or his baptism might have been done in his mother's name rather than his father's name if he was born before his parents were married?
Looked, can't find it.
Can't find it, yeah.
I looked for, it could have been John's Elizabeth child by another lady. Can't find it. But it is Ireland, and so I need to perhaps go over to Ireland at some time. Not right now at the moment.
No. Yeah, travel's a bit difficult at the moment, isn't it? No, I know my one of my great grandfathers, I think, 1815. He was born about a year before his parents married. And nobody had ever found, well, no, everyone actually thought he was born when they were married, but it turned out he wasn't. And actually, and nobody could find, they found all these all the siblings' baptisms. But then I just suddenly looking at the parish register, I suddenly realised, well, there he is, born as the illegitimate son to his mother, and you can see his mother's name. And you just thought, that has to be, he was born a year earlier than they thought he was born.
Yeah.
But everything's all without birth certificate, it's all approximate, and you're going that far back.
Somebody else has got a query, I believe.
Barry Richardson.
No, not me.
Anybody got a question? You can wave at me now. I can see everybody.
You need to unmute yourself now. You're in the bottom left-hand corner, usually.
Yeah,
There you
good
go.
idea. Let's unmute yourselves.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Put him on the spot, please.
I was just looking at the ages from for Ron's grandparents, and yet my mother was born in 1910 in Ireland.
Yeah.
It's an big age difference.
Yeah, but it does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I find it difficult finding going back in Ireland, even for my grandparents' marriage.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because you have to go to Dublin, even though it's in the north of Ireland. Prior 1922-ish, isn't it? It was all Ireland.
Yeah.
So there were a lot in the Dublin, wasn't there, in the courts in Dublin, and they were bombed. So a lot of records got lost.
Yeah. Well,
And I really struggle to find any family back that way.
Well, I've got problems with Irish records. I think his great granddad was Michael Sheehan. There's another great in there. I found him in several censuses, just says born in Ireland.
Mm.
The 1881 census says he was born in Clare in Ireland.
yeah.
That's the only clue we've got.
Well,
And it's
fortunately, with my family, they're not strictly an Irish family. That John is a Yorkshireman. Elizabeth, his wife, was born in Bermuda. So they're not, I think she is of an Irish family, but strictly it's not that same sort of problem. I've searched all the military records for births, marriages, and deaths, and I just can't find them anywhere. As far as Charles William, the middle one of the three Charleses, I can find all of his brothers and sisters, find all of them, but I suspect because he was born out of wedlock, they kept that a bit of a secret. And
Yeah.
perhaps he wasn't born in, baptised in Dublin, but they went into another district to get him baptised. So that well, I need to do a much wider search for his birth.
Ron,
Yeah.
Ron, it said that you couldn't find the service records, been mistranscribed everywhere. How
Yeah.
did you come across it?
Sorry?
How did you find it?
Well, what they'd done, they'd actually got two sets of records and assumed that they were both the same man. One was a Charles W. and the other one's a Charles William, my man. The Charles W. record was hidden behind, sorry, my Charles William was hidden behind the other records. And that, unless you actually look right the way through to the next record down, you you couldn't find him.
Right.
So I suspect that will be. I've seen that done many times. They lump together lots of records all under one name.
Yeah. So it hadn't been transcribed as a completely different name. It was just that
But
they haven't.
the Charles W. was born in Durham, not Dublin. He had nothing to do with my granddad, but because somebody read Durham, they'd very similar.
Catalogued incorrectly.
They'd lump the two together.
You know how we found out that his granddad, it was his granddad, was in the charge of the heavy brigade? We lived down in Kent for some time, and we went to Aldershot with Ron's mum and dad, they were staying with us, to a Safa tattoo, which are absolutely wonderful when they used to do them. I don't know if they still do, but it was a Safa tattoo. And the finale, you remember Edinburgh, the tattoo at Edinburgh, you always have a big finale. Well, they had a finale there, and it was the charge of the Light Brigade. And he said, what a lot of people don't know is that before the charge of the Heavy Brigade, Light Brigade was the charge of the Heavy Brigade, which was, it wasn't a failure, it was totally the opposite. It was a victory. It was a victory. And they came, and it was the household cavalry with all the plumes and the breastplates came trotting on, and Ron's mother turned around and said, "Oh, your granddad was in that. Thank you for telling us, mother. She hadn't told us that at all." But we found out that, you know, so that sort of tied in with that photograph of John in the uniform, the heavy dragoon uniform. Oh, but it was quite something to see, wasn't it? That charge of the Heavy Brigade, and the charge of the Light Brigade. They're absolutely brilliant. So certainly recommend, if they still do them, I'll go to Edinburgh Tattoo there. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I think Aldershot's closed.
Any further questions?
No.
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 One for you.
Sorry, go on, Bernard.
One for you, Pauline. Do you want to do a poll this evening just to see if there's interest for a quiz while everybody's online?
Yeah. Anybody interested in a quiz, to do a quiz?
Yeah.
Stick up your hand.
Pick up your hands. You want to join in a quiz? Right, we'll get a quiz going.
It's a majority.
Right, so
We've already got some questions.
yeah, we'll just run it with 25 questions.
Yeah.
So it'll be for about an hour, and a fortnight tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
Steve, send out the usual invite, will you please?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Before we go,
If I remember.
can I just congratulate Chorley Branch? I've never visited Chorley Branch, I must confess, but I think you've done very well to put this thing on tonight.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. Thank you very much.
Indeed, Colin. Thank you.
Have you had a look at our website?
Very good.
Not often, I must confess.
If you have a look at our website, we've put a lot of resources on there that enable you to do research, but also lots of loads and loads of lectures, talks on various subjects, video lectures. There must be about 20 of them, I think, something like that. There's loads and loads of things to look and do, even quizzes and jokes, and it's well worth a good look at.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have a look.
It's our virtual branch.
Yeah, our virtual branch, yeah. I've remembered the other thing, Steve. It's about coming back to meetings in the hall, isn't it? We personally don't think it's going to be before the new year, because of, you know, it's going to be difficult to set out in 2-metre areas and people wanting to sit with husbands and wives and all this type of thing. If you could please give us some feedback of what you feel. You know, I mean, we are being told we can start doing this, we can have meetings up to 30, but we might end up with more than 30, then we have to say, goes off. We can't in, we can't have more than 30, this sort of thing. Do please let us know what you feel about it. If you don't feel you could quite happily come to a meeting, or you would like to start doing a meeting, I mean, we can do it technologically like this over the airways, but if you would like to start meeting again,
I think the danger of doing it in a meeting room is that if it was a topic that really appealed to a lot of people,
yes,
you'd have to do it. You'd have to say, well, it has to be pre-booked. People
Yes.
would have
Yeah.
to book tickets.
yeah,
Otherwise, as you say, you'd have the problem that you would set out pairs of seats. So
yes,
there's only 15 pairs of people.
yes,
And then
Yeah.
Some people come by themselves.
yes.
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
like me.
And you'd probably have to bring your own drinks. We couldn't provide the drinks and everything. Sorry, Barry, yes.
And then that starts, and that makes a lot of it, I guess, for those who set it out and then they've got to knock it down again afterwards.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of
You do
issues.
anyway, but
Yeah. It gets a lot of issues about that, around that, I think. You know, I'm sure. I mean, personally speaking, I'm less concerned than probably some will be, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who would be concerned about that. But if you would have to start managing the whole issue about sort of basically a reservation system, which I think is another workload for somebody to do.
yes, I think we'll have to be careful about it. But please get some feedback through to Steve on Steve's email, or through the website, Steve. We can do our little through the website. Say what you feel about it. If you want to join again, start meeting up, or wait till the new year and see how things go, because we don't know how this nasty disease is going to carry on, whether it's going to bounce back again or whether it's going to die a death. I honestly don't know.
I do notice that, you know, libraries are talking about opening, some libraries at least, you know,
The whole
talking about
libraries,
opening.
yeah.
The National Archives is open.
But that's my booking. That's the,
Yeah.
that you have to go there.
Yeah, I think everything's going to be after by booking. The SOG, Society of Genealogists, they're thinking of opening.
Digital library.
Sorry?
I was going to say, Ron, there is an issue. The hall, as we stand now, won't be opening till November.
Right.
Now,
That's fine.
that was
I'm not proposing. No, I'm not
that was
proposing.
just to give an idea. If we can open it earlier, we will. If it gets to January, so be it.
Yeah.
I think our big problem is that what they say community areas, which the hall is, cannot put on drama in the same way as theatres can't.
Yeah.
Now, we're not a million miles away from drama when you've got a speaker speaking.
Projecting.
The government are adamant they won't let theatres open.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a consideration. I wonder, would we go against guidelines? You know, we wouldn't be legal.
And at the moment, I mean, the warnings are coming out about winter already, aren't they?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a number of the people who attend the meetings regularly
We'll have to all have masks on.
wouldn't want to come to any gatherings like that. I certainly.
I think Steve's probably got a valid point about the performance aspect.
Yes.
It's just the way I read the guidelines and think, well, we're not a million miles away, are we?
No, I think you're right, Steve. It is a performance, effectively, by a speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I think it's going to be, if we do meet, we have masks on.
Oh yes, I think we probably will have to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're just going to have to see how things go. I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
We did set the committee that we'd look at it every month.
Yeah.
We discuss it every month, and we'll see how far along we are. And I think that's
If the hall's not open until November, then anyway, it's off the agenda till at least then anyway, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
And at the very best, it won't be open until September.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just a case of seeing month by month what happens with the figures, whether they go up, down, stay, or what.
Yeah.
So, and what the government says as well. Okay, folks.
Yeah.
Next month.
Thank you.
Megan.
Thank you very much.
No.
You want the title of this next month?
Next month, Megan's doing a talk.
Yeah.
You have a title?
Yeah, I'm addicted to crime.
I'm addicted to crime.
That sounds enthralling.
Right.
I look forward to that.
Before we do wrap up, can I formally propose a vote of thanks to Ron
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that talk?
Well done, Rob. Thank you.
The underlying question is, just keep going.
Yeah.
All you do is admire your persistence, Ron.
I do.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I like a challenge.
I've got one for you then.
Go on then.
Who's that?
Denise.
Oh no, we've got a great grandfather born in 1862, no trace whatsoever till he gets married in Wigan in 1881 or 82 because he missed the census. And every census he's put on, he's from Rochdale. He's born in Rochdale. And there's a family story come from several branches that he's from Cornwall.
Oh.
But I can't find him anywhere.
What's his surname?
James Just.
James Jump.
Just in time.
Just.
Oh.
Yeah. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
When you were saying, Ron, how a nightmare upside down it was, I thought, well, I've got no chance, have I?
Can you put your query on the website?
For years.
And we'll get some.